In this video I will show you how to model this chicken coop from my Easter video, The Egg Thief. I link the video in the upper right corner. And now we switch to a new Blender project. I deleted everything except the default cube. Select the cube and go to edit mode. Select everything, press SZ 0.05 to flatten the cube. And with SY 0.2 scale it on the y-axis. We created a single plank. With Shift D we can duplicate the plank and move it to the side, and with Shift R we can repeat the last action as often as we want. In this tutorial I go with 3 planks. Using Ctrl R I create 3 loop cuts in the lower plank, 2 cuts in the second plank and 3 again in the upper plank. Create another loop cut in X direction and with Ctrl B split the cut into 2 cuts. Create another loop cut in the center and move it a tiny bit in Y direction. With SZ I scale the loop cut on the X axis. Switch to vertex mode and slide some vertices in Y direction on the top and do the same for the bottom. With K we use the knife tool to create a cut from the first loop cut to the edge and go down to the bottom. Execute the knife operation with Enter and go to edge mode. Go to mesh menu, split and face by edges. Return to vertex mode and dependent on the selected vertex, move it on the y-axis. Move it closer to the adjacent vertex on the y-axis. Select the 3 vertices in the triangle and with F we create a face. Do the same for the other 3 vertices. And with the knife tool we split both triangles. Select the center vertex at the edge and move it down and inwards on the x-axis. Our first plank looks like this in object mode. We can perform this action in variation on the other planks to create some variety. Another trick is to select a single vertex and with Ctrl Shift B we can create a notch. Or use Ctrl B to create a cut off at the corner. The goal is to create 3 distinguishable planks. We can improve our notch with a loop cut in the center. So far we did a lot of manual transformation, but you can add a few more loop cuts and slide them off the center. Go to Mesh, Transform and select Randomize. The effect is too strong, so I set it to 0.01. This is too weak, I go for 0.02. You can increase the number of planks by rotating around the Z or the X-axis. Or you can mirror the planks with a global X-axis, for example. Next, we create a material. As an HDRI, I chose a mountain panorama. Make sure the render engine is Eevee. And next, we create a new material and name it wood. Enlarge the lower window and switch to shader editor. Delete the principal BSDF and add a diffuse BSDF and a shader to RGB node. The shader to RGB node is only available in Eevee. Next, we need a color ramp and connect the output with the surface output. Set the mode of the color ramp to constant. Select a dark brown color for the black slider. Bring back the white slider to 0.859 and select a lighter brown color. In shader view it looks like this, but there is one thing to do. Add another material and call it black. Delete the principal BSDF and add a light path node, a mix shader, an emission shader and a transparent shader. Connect the emission shader into the first input and the transparent shader into the second input, and connect the mix shader to the material output. Plug the shadow ray into the mix vector and set the color for the emission to black. Add a solidify modifier from the generate menu. Set the thickness to 0.02 and leave the offset to -1. Activate flip under normals and set the material offset to 1. Everything is black now, and we return to materials and select the black material. Go to settings, surface and activate backface culling camera. And now this is how we create a black outline for our cartoon look. Now all we have to do is to create the chicken coop. Move the planks to the side. For this tutorial I use the first 3 planks. You can use more to create some variety. Select the 3 planks, duplicate them, press P to create a new object from these 3 planks. In face select mode, I select the middle plank and move it closer to the bottom plank. Do the same for the upper plank. Now select everything, rotate 90 degrees around the x-axis. Go to the front view with 1 on the numpad and position our plank set in the upper left quadrant. duplicate it and move it to the right. Select everything, duplicate it and move it upwards. Again, select everything and with 7 on the numpad go to top view. Duplicate the front wall and rotate it 90 degrees to the left. Copy the side wall, rotate it 180 degrees and use it as the right wall. And I duplicate the front for the back wall. Delete the top planks from the back wall and the 3 planks from the side as shown in the video. Go to the side view with 3 on the numpad and bring the remaining plank into the center. Scale it in Y direction until it reaches the front and the back wall. Select the complete plank with L and with P create a new object. Add a cube and move it up until the bottom is in the center of a long plank and scale it in Y direction. Rotate the cube until you hit the bottom of a plank on the left and the top on the right side. Move the cube until the upper side of a plank is covered within the cube. Select a plank and add a Boolean modifier and move it to the top of a modifier stack. Select difference and select the cube as object and apply the modifier. Now you can delete the cube. Duplicate the plank to the other side and join the objects with J back together. Next we build the roof. Select a random plank in edit mode and move it to the top and scale it to the full width of a wall. Rotate it 90 degrees around the y-axis and align it to the incline of the roof. Lower the plank until it hits the wall. Since I don't need shots on the roof, I can copy the roof plank until the coop is completely covered. Now I do the same for the floor in time-lapse. Next I build a door. I add a cube in object mode and scale it down in edit mode. Position the cube in the left half of the front. Make sure the right wall of the cube doesn't intersect with the center line of the coop and move it inwards. Select the cube and add a Boolean modifier. Select the cube as object, and in case you get strange results, set the solver to fast and apply the Boolean. Delete the cube and we have a door. The cut is very clean, so you can connect the vertices with a knife tool. After that, you can model some imperfections into the cut. We need 4 legs for the chicken coop, so I added a cylinder and put it in the bottom front left corner and rotate it outwards. Duplicate the cylinder and move it to the right corner and rotate it 90 degrees around the Z-axis. Repeat for the other 2 corners. At last, we need a chicken ladder. Add a cube and scale it in Z and X direction. Create a few loop cuts and use the cuts to randomize some edges. I duplicate the face in front to create the steps. The steps will be simple blocks on the ladder. To make things easy, deactivate the solidify modifier temporarily for modeling. After duplicating the steps, you can add a few loop cuts and randomize the steps. And at last, you need to align the chicken ladder. Our chicken coop is nearly finished. In my version, you can clearly see the repetition. In your case, you need to rotate some of these planks or create more variety. There is one more thing. The walls have tiny gaps and are see-through. I added a cube and aligned the walls, bottom and top, with a chicken coop. For the front door, I insert a new face and align it with the front door. I scale it up so it is slightly larger than the front door. Now I can delete this new face. I gave the cube the same wood material and the problem see-through is fixed.